So I'm going to just share the Monday motivational message today in this format because it's easier for me as I am recovering from surgery. But sometimes it's just a necessity to get the message out. So I did try to send out a notification on the app. If you have Spaces downloaded, you have access to notifications from us. If you don't, get on there so that you know when I am doing these pop-ups because they are very powerful. So this powerful pop-up today is inspired by my own present situation where I feel as if I am reliving something that I thought I overcame. Sometimes we re-experience things we thought we overcame because we're being given an opportunity by divine to perceive the situation differently, to respond to the situation differently, so that we're able to shift the outcome. Just because you're going through something that you've been going through for a long time doesn't mean that you are failing or you're not doing well enough. It is only showing up again to be a test, a retest, a retest. However many times you have repeated any situation. It could be a bad relationship. It could be getting in situations where your finances are more so going to helping other people than taking care of yourself. It could be a situation of losing jobs. It could be a situation of having a business that did not do as well as you hoped for. It could be friendships that are ending and changing. Relationships with our children maybe are starting to seem like you're just going through this cycle of tribulation over and over again, and you don't know what else to do. Whenever you get in a situation like that where you don't know what else to do, the thing that I want you to remember is the power of your perception. Your perception of whatever you're going through is what's going to create the outcome, not what you're going through. See, whatever we're going through, what we're witnessing, what we're seeing with our eyes, what we're paying attention to with our senses, whatever you are experiencing, it has nothing to do with the outcome. It has absolutely nothing to do with what's going to happen tomorrow. We put more power in our problems than we do our own perception of them. So for me, I have went hard. Since my first near-death experience, I have been awakening. I was homeless many times. I was a kid who had to be in other households to be raised because my parents were not able to be present, dealing with their own traumas. I was raised by a mother who did not have her mother in her life from the age of 5 forward. So these traumas are being re-experienced in different ways through me, not because it's something inherently bad or wrong about me, not because I deserve some form of cosmic punishment and God is just cursing me and tormenting me. It's not any of those things. Every single tribulation that shows up in my life is simply a retest for me to switch my perception of what I'm observing so that I can get the outcome I desire. That's it. Why do bad things happen to good people? Bad things don't happen to good people. There's no such thing as bad. And I know that seems like a blanket statement, but I'm going to exactly paint this picture in a way where you can see this outside of your perception that has been conditioned by your experiences, just like me. So when you look at the full picture, I want y'all to think of every bad thing that ever happened to you. And in the chat, let me know whether or not that bad thing actually turned into something helpful. It actually turned into something that you can look back now and you like, you know what? When I was going through that, It was so hard. But looking back, I'm so glad I went through that because it made me who I am today. How many of y'all resonate with this? How many of y'all have had this perception to where you're able to look back at times where you probably thought you weren't going to be able to go another day, and now you're grateful for that experience? Anybody here ever had that happen? I see a yes. Okay. So that means everything perceived to be bad can ultimately become something good. It can become something beneficial. So there's no such thing as bad things happening. We have to remove that 3D belief from our mind, because your subconscious mind ultimately creates your reality. It's not your conscious mind that creates your reality. It's not the affirmations that maybe you've been reading and it doesn't seem like nothing is happening. That is not ultimately what creates your reality. The conscious mind only can plant seeds to create the 5% of what we see in our reality. But the subconscious mind, the unconscious mind, which is a computer program based on experiences and the way we perceive them. So it's not the experience that's bad. There is no experience in this world that can take power away from you. Every single experience is meant to empower you. And I hope that you see now the illusion wrapped around some of the things that we say and believe. And I hope that you see now that it does no benefit to believe that bad things are happening to you. And that's not to discount hard times. That's a very real thing. And by being overly attached to perceiving what we see happening in our life as being something bad, we will only create more negativity by holding on to that perception. So for some people, and even for myself, I felt like I was an imposter because I felt like I can't share these things with people because I'm still going through some of them. And for a long time, I struggled with that in the back of my mind. Like, I have to be fully healed. I have to be as rich as I could possibly be. I have to be as close to the outcome of my story. You know what I'm saying? The after. I have to be that, or I can't share what I know. I can't share my wisdom. I can't communicate my experiences to empower other people because I'm still reliving it. I'm still experiencing some of these things. And I realized through a lot of shadow work and a radical self-acceptance phase in my spiritual awakening, what it showed me was there's no human on this planet who's not going to go through something hard. And there is no human on this planet who is above having traumatic experiences in life. It's just a part of the experience. It doesn't matter if I'm an herbalist who still have some health issues. It doesn't matter if I am a spiritual life coach who still has some things that I'm working on in my own life. It doesn't matter if I am teaching about relationships from a 5D consciousness space to help people release the 3D way of seeing, perceiving their relationships. It doesn't matter if I'm still having some difficulties in my own relationships, right? That doesn't transcend the wisdom and the ability that I have to speak to people in a place of activating their heart so that they can actually feel how incredible they are. so that they can actually see beyond what reality is showing them their divinity. Our higher self, the highest version of us, is pure divinity. And it's wrapped in what seems to be a paradoxical manifestation of perpetual problems in life. If you are trying to change your life by changing what's showing up in your life in the physical, you're bypassing the purpose in the painful experiences. You're bypassing the test that God, Goddess, consciousness, universe, it doesn't matter what name we call this higher power. The higher power is the higher power, despite how we try to personify it or classify it. At the end of the day, everything that we go through is showing up in our life to be of service to us, not to disempower us. And I know it feels like it when it's happening. But you just proved to your own self that everything you perceive to be bad in your past that happened to you, you now look back and see it had a purpose. Shifting into that is what's going to help us transcend a lot of the things that we have not been able to stop experiencing. Okay? For those of us who are empaths that have went through traumatic experiences, of course you're going to have some mental health imbalances. Of course you're going to have some health issues or financial issues or relationship issues, but it does not diminish your divinity. It's time for us to realize that the toxic culture, the societal systems that were set up to keep us not believing in ourselves, to keep us not really believing in each other, to keep us in a space of judging one another, condemning one another, as if we've reached a point of transcendence where there is no more transcendence to reach. If you are in a physical body on this planet, it's because you need to be here to have the experiences that you are having, to become the person that you are supposed to be. Point blank, period. That's it. And I find it really interesting that some of the most powerful people that touch me, they don't have the numbers. They deserve so much more coverage than what they get. And we must remember that this physical reality is always being manipulated. Not just by external sources, not just by the power structures, not just by those who create these trends, these viral things. We see so much of this. Something is grooming humanity to feel like they do not deserve better. And it's accessing our subconscious, unconscious self. It's imprinting on our psyche that we need something outside of us to make us better. And at the root of everything, everybody is trying to reach a space of feeling more love. Whether that's the addict or the alcoholic or the love addict, codependency, right? Or the person who's addicted to being a martyr, the person who's been programmed to people please and sacrifice themselves to make other people comfortable, to make other people happy. All of these things is not a you problem, okay? This is a we thing. As a collective, we are here to transcend that. No soul on this planet is here for no reason. And a lot of us have had so many trials in our life and tribulations, our spirit is crushed. And there are a lot of the things that we can be doing and creating and sharing with the world, but there's something inside of us that we just don't feel like we really are ready. We just don't feel like, and sometimes you're not ready. But oftentimes I find that trauma created a wounded child archetype of perfectionism And so in an effort to not be rejected or abandoned, I mean, rejection, it really do hurt. Rejection is just, it's not comfortable, you know, especially if you've really been trying your best. So a lot of us are still wounded. A lot of us are in fetal position, energetically folded up, because it's just like, I don't know if I can take another hit. You know, like life just keep coming at me. I really don't know if I can take another hit. And so energetically, we fold up like babies in fetal position. And what happens is the heart is just so afraid to open up. And so, you know, you close down, and some signs of knowing that you just have been so hurt that you've put yourself in this energetic cocoon, and it's probably unconscious. It's probably subconsciously that you've done this, but you've just have closed yourself off. And one of the main signs is not being able to trust anybody, beginning with yourself first. The inability to trust your own guidance system from within you automatically fragments you as a person. And so what a lot of us have adapted as our personality is actually a coping mechanism to deal with everything that we've been through, and to try to brace ourselves for what we might go through in the future. And the world is moving so fast, and, you know, the 3D matrix needs, and, you know, you got to work and you got to eat and you got to pay bills, like these things without proper balance. What happens is we're just burnt out. And, you know, you get in a space where you don't feel like you can trust yourself. And this is the spiritual warfare that's happening through our own perception, the way that we see ourselves. And when you cannot trust yourself, you will block out your intuition. You won't listen to your intuition. You will listen more so to your logical mind. You will try to reason everything. You won't be able to trust the process. You won't be able to trust that everything is working out for you, despite how it seems, despite how it looks. You will not be vulnerable in relationships where you can be vulnerable, not just with everybody, you know, because there are boundaries that we must have around this part of us that we're healing. But when you know that there are people that you can be vulnerable with, and you feel this feeling inside of you that you, for some reason, you can't share your truth with them, that's not just a reflection of you thinking that they may judge you or not like what you have to say, or think it's stupid or weird or crazy or whatever. That's also a mirror of a program inside of you where you don't trust that you can be vulnerable. You don't trust vulnerability. And it's usually connected to a past moment where we open our heart and we were vulnerable and we got our heart broke. Well, what human do you know that's never had their heart broke? Even as children, we got our heart broke over and over again. And maybe it was small things. And because it was small, you know, you just kind of dismissed it and pushed it to the side, and you put it in a compartment in your subconscious mind and said it don't matter. Maybe people around you told you it don't matter. Maybe they told you to stop being a baby, stop being so sensitive, stop crying so much. Why are you making a big deal about everything? This is the experience of someone who's born being chosen to end certain cycles. We have to have these experiences, and they oftentimes are more intense inside of us than what's happening externally. And most of the time, we did not feel like listening to our intuition, listening to our heart, being vulnerable was safe. And so we just shut that part of us down. Childhood conditioning has, I would say, 99% control over the way our love relationships happen from you know, the point when we have our first boyfriend and girlfriend. You can look back over some time, depending on how old you are, you can see it's a pattern. And so our relationships are reenactments of childhood conditioning so that we can heal. See, this goes back to that. Because if you attract any type of toxicity in relationships, it's just this belief now that there's something wrong with you, you know, and that you're bad and you're not worthy of love. You can't trust yourself to fall in love again. You can't trust yourself to be open and vulnerable. But the perceiving yourself like that is actually more of the issue than the experience itself. Every toxic relationship I ever had helped me discover an aspect of myself that was toxic to me, which means that every ex was actually a part of my healing journey, though they may have been the ones that hurt me. And I'm grateful for those experiences, because without them, I wouldn't have clarity on who I want to be in relationship. And so we're in this space now with Venus in retrograde and in Leo. And though I'm not an astrologer, I'm an energy reader. But when I share these transmissions from the Akashic records, which holds the book of life and all information from everything that happens beyond space and time. If you resonate or know a little bit about the Sibylline prophecy, the Sibyls, the prophetess, and the Mami Watas, these are people who are given the gift of premonition, clairvoyance, clairsentience, clairaudience, just the ability to see outside of time and space. The ability to dream things before it happens, the ability to feel things before it happened. So that's what I was given in this life, to help people transcend suffering. This is my spiritual calling. And in this sacred calling, I was dealt a pretty difficult hand in life. And it has nothing to do with me being a bad person. These are the experiences I signed up for, so that I could become the power that I seek. And if this reenactment is showing up in your relationships right now, because Venus is all about our self-worth, okay? And the way that we love ourselves, the way that we comfort ourselves, the way that we nurture. It's a very feminine energy. It's a very motherly energy. Leo is heart. The zodiac of Leo is the heart. And so our heart is opening up to show us where we don't love ourselves enough. The things that we do that depreciate our value. And sometimes because of these unhealed traumas, we have a tendency to be in relationship in a way that can actually cultivate our partner in a way where it's difficult for them to appreciate us. It takes two to make a thing go right, but it also takes two to be appreciated. So if you have a belief that people never appreciate you, and you just keep doing and doing and doing, it turns into resentment later, because you're like, it's not being reciprocated. And I perceive that to mean people don't appreciate me. In actuality, what it is, wait, this person is a mirror, and it must be somewhere where I'm not appreciating myself. Okay? So if you are always overextending yourself, always sacrificing your own needs to meet the needs of others, you actually train your partner how to take you for granted. If you people please, if you are codependent, and it's just really hard for you to take care of yourself because maybe you struggle with the idea that you're being selfish, connected to childhood conditioning, then your partner is going to be so used to you doing, and not really having to reciprocate, that your partner is just not going to really see a reason to extend themselves. And this is the toxic side of our culture, where women have been raised to believe that we aren't worthy. We're not a good woman. We're not a good mother, wife. We're not a good anything unless we're putting other people's needs before our own. And so a lot of us found our self-worth in the way that we treat and show up for other people and meet the needs of other people. And this is something that I'm speaking from experience, where I would do things for people before I would do it for myself. If somebody was hungry, I would feed them and make them a plate before I make my own, after I stood in the kitchen for hours cooking. I started to question that, like, why do I do this? Where is this coming from? And how is this harming me? And so when I stopped doing it, of course, people who are adapted to me overextending myself and doing these things, it's like, whoa, hold up. What's happening? Why you ain't make my plate? You know, what's happening? And so there's a period where you start giving more love to yourself, where the people in your life are going to feel like you're taking something away from them. And they may be triggered by that. So be prepared for that. Spiritual awakening has phases, and in that self-love, radical self-acceptance phase, and I'm going to take care of me better. Yes, this is definitely a common thing to happen. And when people are triggered by you not doing as much as you used to do, how are you going to perceive that? And how are you going to respond? You don't wait till it happens. You create a system for yourself. You create your own codes to live by, so that you're not living by society's expectation anymore. What a lot of us think is our personality was really maladaptive ways of coping with painful experiences. So people might think that that's just you and your personality because they don't know your whole story. They don't know what you've been through. And in this phase, the most helpful thing to do is to practice releasing judgment when you trigger people. Okay? Because it's gonna happen. And nobody is bad. Nobody is, you don't have to categorize. When we perceive things in that way, we create more of that. Whatever you give your attention to, that's what you're going to create in your reality. And so it's good to let people know, especially if you're in a relationship. Like, I'm not going to be able to do as much as I've been doing. And I know that I need to love myself more than I have been. In order for me to do that, I'm going to have to stop overextending myself. And however they respond is their sovereign right to feel however they feel, and they may be hurt. They may go into a depression. They may start being angry with you and just being difficult to talk to. And for me, I was so good at being a martyr and keeping a smile on my face that a lot of people in my life that I was doing for didn't even know that I was really dying inside and I needed help. And so my support system became non-existent because I became the support system for everybody else. And at the end of the day, I ended up burnt out and couldn't do anything for myself. And my body, it let me know. Your body will let you know. Are you listening to your body? And every time you get sick, or you have a mental health crisis, or maybe you're just depressed and it's difficult for you to function, or maybe you could be having panic attacks, or maybe you have become somebody who is more introverted, and like it can show up in many ways. But when you start to discover these aspects of yourself, the way that you perceive yourself is what's going to create the outcome, not the situation. And because of my situation, I would be afraid to let people know I was going through anything, because I did not want to give off the perception that I'm not embodying what I teach. And it makes sense on one level, that's logical, but spirituality is not logical. By me saying, you know what, I'm making decisions decisions that's going to benefit me, and it's going to benefit me to be open, honest, and transparent. And I'm not going to hide a damn thing about anything that I'm going through, because I'm afraid that people are going to think that I don't know what I know, and that I don't have something to offer into this world that's actually can be life-changing. Like, I know this shit about me. I know without a shadow of doubt that I change lives. I know that when people interact with my energy, they leave feeling better than when they interacted with the world prior to, because this is who I am. This is what I was created to do, but I overused it. I overextended myself to the point where loving me was a blur. I didn't know how to do it. And as an adult, a mother, a grandmother, a business owner, someone who I've been doing motivational speaking for so long, as someone who has stepped out into the public in such a vulnerable way that has so much trauma, I don't need to sleep on myself about that. That's fucking powerful. And if I can share a heart-led message of inspiration while I'm experiencing the shit, while I'm in the trial, that if somebody perceived that to be, oh, she's not embodying what she teaches, she's in her imposter shit. Oh, if that's how people perceive that, that has absolutely nothing to do with me. And a lot of us been cultivating our life around the way we think people are going to perceive it. It's actually more powerful. If I was sitting in a position and everything had been overcome in the physical, speaking as if I'm speaking from a spiritual perspective, but I've already overcome it, then that's not as strong of a message of, yeah, I'm sitting in a boat right now and the boat is in the middle of the ocean and it's sinking, and I'm going to go live and inspire other people with the message of how powerful our perspective of our pain is and how it can shift us to a whole new timeline, to have a whole new experience. I'm going to do that while I'm sitting in the middle of the boat that's fucking sinking and I don't see a lifeguard anywhere, but I trust spirit. I trust what I cannot see. That's more powerful than trying to be the after before I speak and share from other people. For other people, from other people, because everything that we learn and experience comes through other people. And a lot of us want this spiritual healing, but we're closed off to what is the message being communicated through other people, even if it is what seems to be an unhealthy relationship or unhealthy situation. What is it showing up to teach you? And what tools do you have to be able to observe from a space of non-attachment? Because it is our attachment to what we go through that creates suffering, not what we go through. To be able to hear my heart, to be able to have enough power within myself to share light while I am sitting in an abyss is literally the purpose of being a spiritual person in this time. And some of us have hid our light because we feel like our circumstances don't serve as proof to others that we have succeeded. Our attachment to our idea of what success is creates perpetual suffering. It creates this separation between us, each other. And when we are separated from each other, of course, we're also going to feel conflict within our own reality and lives, because oftentimes the answer to what you have been praying and petitioning for is in someone else. And that's to keep us connected to one another, because separation from spirit manifests as separation in our lives with each other. to the point of having so much love in your heart, and you don't even know how to get it out. You don't know how to share it with the world. You don't have to share it with people in your house, people that you live with, work with. Like, you can feel it, and then it's like you can't share it. And maybe you keep having issues and disagreements and just triggers, and you just like it's so much love here, but it's something blocking our ability to experience each other's love. I go into the darkness of what this is to discover the answer, because all light originates in darkness. That's my role that I play, and that's the investment my soul is making into this world, in this incarnation. So of course I'm going to go through difficulties, because if I'm really about what I say that I'm about, my heart is going to transcend whatever is showing up in my reality that's trying to get me to believe that I'm a failure. Are you ready to receive this word that your present circumstances do not mean that you are a failure? Can you receive that? Because sometimes it's hard to receive that. And for me, I felt like I was failing when I came down with a fever yesterday. I was like, oh my goodness. Like, I'm giving it all I got. And I went into my practices. I did my mantra chanting. I double checked and made sure that my altars were facing the direction that is auspicious, that's most beneficial. Because see, all of this matters. Without direction, you can't navigate the ocean of consciousness that creates life. You need direction. You need a GPS system. You need to know, am I following the North Star or not, so that you can make adjustments. And so for me, working with the invisible is how I shift externally in my world. And that's not just for me, but every spiritual system I have studied to find the common denominator of what can we do to transcend our suffering, transcend our traumas. And the common denominators in all spiritual systems is this ability to commit to your spiritual practices. A lot of us are trying to change the veneer of our life without shifting the subconscious programming and our routines so that they are supporting with the place that we desire to go, the path that we desire to be on. What are you doing every single day to move you in a direction of that thing that you feel deep in your heart you're supposed to do? And so for me, waking up with a fever yesterday, it just seems like the total opposite of the outcome that I was expecting. But if I just shift my perception, instead of trying to change the physical matter that I'm witnessing, that's the game changer. Can I wrap up in blankets and sweat? And while I'm sweating, shaking, throwing up, can I still hear my spirit guide me through each moment, through each breath? Can I control my emotions by cultivating thoughts that will support me in this time? If I can do that, I can leverage what I'm going through. You see, this is the remedy to worry. This is the remedy to stress, anxiety, depression. And yesterday I kept saying, I need a major outcome to happen or I'm not going to feel successful. I'm not going to feel like that I'm about what I teach. And then I get a fever. The power came being able to perceive the problem as actually a portal for me to walk through and have a new experience. Instead of trying to make the fever go away, how about I just sit with myself and see this as an opportunity to stop someone who will sacrifice their health for other people, for their business, for their family. Let's see how she is going to respond when we stop her normal to-do list task. See, when life brings interruptions, that's the opportunity for you to rest, to connect, to rejuvenate, to give love to yourself. Now, my attention is where it's supposed to be. Thank you, body. Thank you, body, so much for stopping me from subconsciously sabotaging myself by overworking. You feel the difference? So I can still be in a sinking boat. And I can still be a lighthouse at the same time. And that irony is a manifestation of us discovering that we are multidimensional. We're more than what we see. And with that clarity came this powerful message. If you are an empath, right now more than ever, you may be experiencing the grief of the collective of the world. You may also be feeling the joy. Prior to this moment, I didn't know that I could feel joy while I had a fever. I didn't know that I could do that. But I'm grateful for this present moment because I got to practice having faith. I got to practice being able to perceive myself to be greater than my situations. I got to practice being able to experience contrast and duality and what seems to be the opposite of what I want to be experiencing. And I got a chance to feel the profound power in just shifting my perception, changing where I'm putting my attention. Because the meanings that we've been programmed to assign to things is the spell casting that hypnotizes us into believing that we are bad, broken, unworthy, and it's just like you just keep making the same mistakes. Look at you. That inner critical voice that we have is being challenged. So whatever's showing up in your life, know that this is a test for humanity to see, can we truly shift our reality? And can we shift our collective reality as a result of that? This is the great experiment. And this is not a race, it's a marathon. If you need to slow down, slow down. Don't wait till your body has to cause some type of sickness or your mind has to have a mental health breakdown. I used to have those in the past. And I mean, it was intense because I didn't know who I was. I thought I was who the world told me I was. You know? And in the darkest times, I discovered my light. And I got tattooed on my right arm. And the tattoo says, "Stars need darkness to shine." So many of us are shining despite what we've been through. And there is a collective belief that darkness is bad, And that collective belief causes us to be victims to this toxic culture where 1 in 4 women are dying from autoimmune diseases, and most of them are married and not happy. We're in a time where you probably can't even share that with the person you share your bed with. We're in a time where though we are together, we feel more divided than ever, and because you can't make sense of it with your 5 senses, you discount it to mean that something is bad, something is wrong. I challenge you to have an out-of-brain experience, to observe what's happening in a way that's actually going to support you. If the way that you talk to yourself isn't something that you would be proud of the whole world hearing or of your children hearing, then you know that you're not supposed to talk to yourself like that. It's time to stop that, because we are so much more worthy of compassion, non-judgment, and patience. I know right now relationships seems to be going through some pretty intense tests. And I want y'all to remember, because people are undeading each other over small things. Children are killing mothers and fathers. I saw a daughter and granddaughter kill their grandmama together. This is what happens when the empaths on the planet are trying to survive life, absorbing everybody else's pain on top of their own, and they don't have support or the tools to navigate this world. This is what happens. And that's not to pin blame on anybody, because all of us ultimately have been victimized by the power structures and the collective consciousness that was programmed to us by media in every way. And I break all of this down in my metaphysical lectures, teachings. I got heart transmissions like this to activate you, to experience a new version of you. But that's unraveling. And so we're unraveling. And unraveling is beautiful once you train yourself to see. It's not an overnight thing. You have to be committed to this. And when it's time for you to experience a breakthrough, the breakdown comes up. And how you respond to the breakdown determines whether or not you have to go through that test again. This is a university. Earth is our school. The people in our lives play roles, and it all has a purpose. And I want to offer to you all, I'm going to be restarting because I'm shifting into a higher level of access within the tree of life, within the Akashic records. I'm shifting into a higher sphere of consciousness, and so I'm going to be sharing from there. But because I am a white galactic wizard, which basically means the planets and the positions of the planets when I was born were positioned in a way where it fit into the archetypes within the Mayan calendar, where glyphs were created by indigenous cultures, and they are accurate to this day. None of the prophecies have been inaccurate. They're all manifesting. And so there's power in knowing who you are beyond what you do. And a lot of us have identified with what we do as who we are. And so we don't have access to experience our soul to know, wait, but what is the harmonic frequency that's within my soul? And this was a game changer for me learning this about myself. I cannot express how much more confidence I had in who I was and why I'm still alive and why I was born in a time where we would shift from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius, the age of Kali Yuga. This is the age of destruction, because many of the structures that were built on our suffering. And the whole capitalism, politics, like the list goes on. And so we're breaking free of those chains. So when I found out I was a white galactic wizard, and my harmonic frequency is something that exists outside of time and space, it made my abilities, my spiritual gifts, make so much sense. And simply in being able to perceive myself in a vibrational perspective of the astrological placements when I was born, I was able to discover parts of myself that I stopped identifying with once I became what I do. It is to our detriment to think that we are what we do. And if you ask yourself, who am I? And the answer is something that you do, that is a clear marker that you have taken on ideologies, personalities, and ways of identifying with your sense of self that aren't a full picture of who you are. That's what you do. But why you do what you do, now there lies the key to who you are. And if we are attached to identifying ourselves through the lens of society, then of course you're going to continually feel like a victim in certain situations in life, right? And that's okay too. Like, it's no judgment for none of it. So before I get off, I'm going to read to you all a post that I just posted. And this is the excerpt from the guidebook that I'm creating to help people navigate this new underworld, just really, really sometimes chaotic energy. And, you know, my goal is to be able to share from the sinking boat so that people are able to watch spirit move. And because I was blessed with the ability to see multiple future outcomes and timelines, I'm able to transcend what's showing up in the present moment to reveal the much larger picture of why the present moment is happening, how it's connected to the past, and how this is a bridge to the future that you desire. And in this space, the people that we're going to be crossing paths with now, they're going to be a mirror to the work that we've done on ourselves. So don't worry if up to this point you feel like nothing that you've done has changed. There is a buffer period between making these changes. That includes changing your mindsets, being more willing to look in areas where maybe you were afraid to look for things that actually take power away from you, being able to love yourself. It takes courage to look in the dark room. It takes courage to go in the basement. And spiritual bypassing, which has the same root as religion. And when I say religion, I mean the definition of the word to bind. Religion was used to really do some terrible things in this world. And some of the trauma that we're experiencing, it's from the wars. It's from the blood that was shed in the name of religion. And they're like, okay, that happened, right? It's not to discount anybody's spiritual path, because I came through religion. And again, nothing is bad. Things are either beneficial or not. And religion was beneficial for me. So being willing to look at areas that maybe planted seeds in me to not be able to love and take care of myself for fear of people feeling disappointed or rejected or abandoned or just not loved by me, because I'm someone that felt like I didn't get the love that I really needed. And I started to just sacrifice my own needs to meet others' needs. That was a route that I was skipping. And I have been to therapy. I have had hypnosis. I have had shamanic journeys. I have had plant medicine. I have had 2 near-death experiences. One where I experienced the consciousness of the place we would call heaven, and the other I experienced the consciousness of the place we would call hell. I also, it's so many levels of experiences that I had that helped me to connect these dots. And on top of knowing that I'm a white galactic wizard, and we're now in a white wizard Galactic New Year, and this is based on the position of Sirius, which is how indigenous cultures calculated time. The way the Gregorian calendar calculates time, only purpose is the same as religion, was to use humans to work and to pay taxes, to pay tithes. And you're being traumatized as you're doing this, but it was created to keep us in a subjugated position. And I'm not saying it's not useful. I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. That's not wisdom. However, I was afraid to look anywhere that I felt like I was using to cope with life and get through life. So for a long time, I didn't want to see if there were any beliefs within religion that affected me in a negative way. I didn't want to see that. And I had to see it to heal. And again, so I want to share this with you. This is an excerpt from the guidebook, Turning Pain into Purpose. And I'm writing this in real time. I want this book to be so connected beyond time and space that no matter who read the book, they will get something from it that will shift them into being able to have more love beyond what we even believe we're capable of. That's the intention. It says the inner child within us cannot differentiate between the pain that leads to purposeful change and the pain of remaining the same. This inner chaos may then manifest in our finances, health, and relationships. By being observant and following the steps, OBB, observe, breathe, expand, believe, experience, one can experience significant improvement in their internal world, which ultimately leads to change in the outer world. Denying one's own darkness can be more dangerous than embracing it. Being out of touch with our own shadow requires significant effort to maintain self-deception. Religion, in many cases, has programmed individuals to deny their own shadows and demons to avoid being eternally rejected. Religion cultivated a culture of codependency. All right. Share this